you saw that several times I went back throughout that drawing and went back to other layers and edited things that I had previously done. There were things that, like, as I was going through, I was like, oh, I don't really like the way this looks, or, ooh, wait, I forgot about that, and went back and edited it, and that's totally fine. There's no set order, like, well, you have to draw this first, and you have to do this next. With this, well, digital art programs in general are very forgiving, and you have a lot of leeway. You have a lot of room to make error and to go back and fix it. So don't ever worry like oh well I drew this line wrong like forever ago and now I'm on this part so I can't go back. No, you can totally go back. It's very okay to make mistakes. Now you saw me shuffling things around in a separate folder there. Now I'm going to be smart this time and actually start up a folder and start putting the coloring layers into this folder so I don't have to go back and try to shuffle all that around again because that was really annoying. But when I am coloring, I usually like to start off with the skin color because I don't know, it just makes me feel most comfortable, I suppose, to get the skin tone down first and then work on the clothing and, the details from there. Now, like I was saying, this alien species, the Zeronians, I suppose. Oh, I gotta really think of a better name. That sounds so stupid, but their species is has blue flesh. So he's blue, and it's pretty much the color I'm looking for. Now, for my coloring layers, because I wanted this to be a softer kind of more loose-looking drawing, I'm using a different tool. I'm using my watercolor brush. So that kind of it allows for a lot of blending. So if I take here, let me do an example. If I take a separate layer here and I've got this red, I put the red down with the watercolor brush, or actually any brush, but then I go into it with the blue. See, I've got the blue here, and I merge it into the red. It blends it like automatically. Whereas if I were to go and do it with my pen tool, it would, whoops, hang on, let me make that totally opaque so you can actually see it better. If I go over it with my pen tool, it just goes straight over top of it. So the blending for, things like skin tone and stuff like that is really nice. Because I can go and say, like, okay, well, the shadow would be kind of over here, so this part of his head would be a little bit darker. Or he's got dark rings under his eyes, so this part of his skin would be a little bit darker just from sleep deprivation. And this part here is the bridge of his nose, so let's accent that a little bit and kind of define the outside of the outer lining, the outer rim of his face here. Perhaps go and work on his eyebrows for a second. They don't have hair on them, but you can still tell the difference. Perhaps that was a little bit too much of a difference. And see, like, the watercolor tool is also pretty forgiving. You won't be able to go back to exactly what you had before, but it's very easy to get something to the place that you want it to, or at least for me, because I like working with like looser stuff like that. In fact, I love working with watercolor in like on actual canvas and stuff, because I just like the way it feels, and I like the way that it kind of does its own thing. But obviously on the computer, it's a lot easier to control it. It's a lot easier to control how it's going to work for you. Now, I'm pretty happy with how this is going to look. Obviously, there's a lot of parts where I colored out the lines, and I think I'm going to deal with that later. Let me just label my layer here and keep going. at this point I have realized that I actually drew the watch on the wrong layer. I accidentally drew it on the on the rest of the clothing layer. So that happens, mistakes happen. But that means I have to be very careful when I'm editing these lines here that I don't like. So that kind of stinks, but it happens, and unfortunately it happens to me a lot. So I'm just going to continue to edit it on the clothing layer. At this point I could have had the option to try to redraw it on a separate layer, but at this point, you know what? It's going to be fine. I'll deal. So here we are, which means I can get rid of the watch layer because it really has nothing on it and it's just going to be a distraction. Here we go. Here we go. Is this? No, that's actually part of the coloring. Alright, back to coloring then. Alright, now at this point I am just about ready to go back and erase parts that are overlapping other things, like are drawing outside the lines. And like I said, um, in in a digital art program like this, it is very forgiving, and you can easily make mistakes and go back and fix them, which is why I wasn't too concerned when I was drawing outside the lines. In fact, I almost always do that because I feel like for me, I get a nice cleaner image when I go back and erase afterwards and like kind of like take care more then for the smaller details than when I'm initially drawing it. But I don't always do that. It really depends on the type of style I'm going with. And if I'm going for lineless, then I really try to take care that I draw it right the first time because after I've erased it, it looks weird compared to all the rest of it. But for something like this, where it has, then maybe they're not completely solid borders, but there are borders, it is easy, or it's not so bad for me to go back and erase after the fact. Alright now, I'm really liking the way that the coloring is going and stuff, but I want to make the shading a tad bit more dramatic, a tad bit more unified, I suppose. So I'm going to start working on some lighting and then shading from there because I like to work with the lighting first to make sure that I know like where the shadows will fall. Now on his suit here, these orange parts are actually slightly glowing, so I shall put down some little glowy bits. In fact, I should probably put that on top of the lines because the lines, the borders should be affected by it, at least to make it look more crisp. Maybe not crisp, but I don't know, to make them to look better, I suppose. So this is kind of the area of the glow. It wouldn't glow too much, but not too little, I suppose. Oops, I lost the image there. Alright, now when I like to change the blending option of the layer, and you see if I do overlay, it kind of gives it more of that glowing effect. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, turn it down by, you know, working with the opacity, the opacity a little bit there, and I like this, I like this. I could also go with screen, which I feel like it's a little too harsh. The other options are add, which is just way too much, and then not normal. Normal is the way. And then multiply, which is what I usually use for shading. So I'm going to go back to overlay, and now I know generally the direction that the shadows should fall in, and where they wouldn't, I suppose. And to match the calmer mood of this drawing, and to kind of be the opposite, I suppose, of the yellow, I'm going to work with purple for the shading. When I'm working with shading, I always work with a single dark color, and that keeps it from looking muddy. It keeps it from looking like all the shadows are different for some reason, because they shouldn't be. The shadows all should be this generally the same color warmth, I suppose. Alright, now I'm pretty much done with the general shading here. I will probably go over and blur it a little bit, but I want to show you what it's going to look like, and change the layer blending to multiply. And multiply kind of shows the colors underneath more so than being on normal with some kind of opacity. Like here's the difference between like 71% opacity, and if I go to multiply, you can tell the colors on the bottom a little bit more. It doesn't look like the color purple sitting on top of the color brown and the color blue. It looks more blended, I suppose. And so I like using multiply for my shading layers. Now, just like with my regular coloring, I was very sloppy with my shading, and so I want to go back and fix that, of course. And there are parts that could stand to be blended a little bit more or blurred a little bit more, but I'll work on that in a moment after taking care of most of the general like oversplash as far as the shading went. This is also the opportunity to fine-tune some of the parts that needed to be shaded where I forgot, like on his hand here, and the shadowing coming from his finger being here. Satisfied with the way this is looking, so I'm going to work with my blur tool a little bit. I usually keep my blur tool nice and big. That's a pretty decent size. And just kind of soften some of the edges here. I don't usually like to use the blur tool too much, especially when working with an already generally blended kind of tool like the watercolor tool. But there are parts where I feel like with the softer lighting that I'm trying to get, it would be good to have a softer blend. And hopefully I can get the feeling that I kind of want to get from this, I suppose. It's looking a little bit better. In fact, I may want to go and use the blur tool to alter the way that the light is moving there. So you see, that looks a little bit more natural for it to be a little less hard of an edge where the light kind of fades away. Here we go. And at this point, I decide whether or not I want to add a background or if I want to just, to stop it here and say this is the finished product. And I think this video has gone on long enough, so I'm going to have it end here. Alright, thank you for sticking with me through this kind of awkward, probably a little bumpy tutorial. But I've got to practice, and hopefully this helped you, and if it didn't, then I don't know. Maybe you should help me on things, because if you already know all this stuff, then you probably know more than me, because this is really generally the way I go through things when I usually draw. This is generally my order of operations, I suppose. And I don't know. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, please, down in there's a like section. Go hit that like button if you enjoyed this tutorial. In the comment section, tell me something you would like to know about either Fire Alpaca or the way that I draw, or something relating to art or to my art specifically that you would like to know. If this is the first time you've stopped by my videos, then I'm sorry that this first video is a little awkward and probably a little weird to understand, but I am working on trying to get better at teaching as opposed to just kind of like rambling over top of drawing and stuff. So if you liked what you heard, then hit that subscribe button and I don't know, stick around, because I'm going to be trying to do this a lot more often so that I can teach you guys what I know, I suppose. I'm not saying I'm going to teach you how to be some kind of expert artist or whatever, but I can at least share the knowledge that I have and give insight to my process, which obviously is not the correct process or the only process, but it is the way I do things. And I don't know, people seem to like it, so why not share it, you know? So yes, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, check out some of my other videos, and please, guys, have a really great day, night, evening, whatever. See you, lovelies.